Okay, yeah, I have to have YouTube Studio open. Okay, so we are live. Welcome again to the illustration stream. I was not able to do the last two streams because I have pot syndrome and it decided to completely ruin my day on both Friday and Saturday. So that is a thing. So please keep in mind that if you're talking on Discord, you will be recorded. I'm here with my friend Hattie, and I am in the midst of Death Note brain rot. You can see I actually have, and here's a fun fact that this one right here, this profile. Oh, I have to start the event on Discord. Hold on just a second. um, all right, now we're starting the event on Discord. And my icon on the right, that's actually my other account. I have two Discord accounts that are both on my server because YouTube does not have a built-in screen mirroring function or whatever. So, yeah. I'm doing chapters 71 and 72 today. Okay. Anyway, as you were talking, what was that about? I think we were talking about Yotsuba or Death Note Abridged or something like that. Oh yeah, by the way, it's Hattie's
Yeah.
fault.
Well,
It's Hattie's fault that I'm addicted to Death Note, so anyway.
great, cool. And I hope I accomplish the same with FMU Brotherhood. Because,
Please, I need to focus on my stories.
yeah, May 27th, it's 10 days away.
Yeah. Anyway, so.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're the best two anime shows I've ever watched.
Yeah. I definitely don't understand the people who say that Death Note like dropped in quality after the first half. And by the way, you may not want to watch this stream or watch it mute. You may want to watch it muted if you plan to see the show because spoilers, but after L dies. So like I am not I do not agree with that. I think that the show is like the show's quality would have dropped if he had come back. Like I think that out of the three possible endings, like L lives, L dies, and then he comes back, or L just permanently dies and his successors are take over. Like of those, I think that the weakest one would have been L coming back. And this is coming from somebody who loves L. Like I held back the tears because I knew it was coming, but I was still very sad. But I think that it had to happen because here's the thing. If he had come back, the Death Note would have basically failed one time whenever all the conditions that Ryuk outlined at the beginning were accomplished. You know what I mean? And I don't think you should bend the rules for this one character just because everybody likes him. I mean, I get it, but like, yeah, you shouldn't bend the rules. So, yeah, I think that the way Death Note progressed and ended was pretty good. Like, I think it was fine. It was actually pretty good. So I am not in the camp of saying that the anime went off the rails after the first half because that's not true. Anyway.
Yep. And it's actually closer to the first two-thirds. It only feels like half because
Yeah, that's
the
yeah.
genre shifts completely. People need to understand one thing, and I've come to realize this over the past couple of years. The first 25 episodes, the intro arc, the college arc, and the Yotsuba arc, those three arcs in art make up part one of the show. That is the standard, detective mystery thriller crime drama that is advertised. Part two, which is the last third of the show concerning episode count, even though it still has detectives versus serial killer, good guy versus bad guy kind of stuff.
I thought you said gay guy versus bad guy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It is not a detective thriller. Part two is actually a Greek tragedy.
Yeah, it
where
is.
The quote unquote protagonist has a key character flaw, which is normally pride/arrogance, which is the case with Light, and we see the protagonist's slow decline into failure and eventually death. or at the very least, some kind of irreversible punishment.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what happens with him. If people understand that part two is all about analyzing Light's downfall, then they'll probably like it a little more. Not completely, but a little more.
Yeah, I also think it had to fit with the allegory because Elle is definitely some sort of like Jesus figure, and I'm not saying Elle is like a one-to-one parallel because Christ had a humility Elle never had, but like I think that some of the things that they show about Elle do show that he's supposed to be kind of a messianic sort of figure, and then that's fully realized with Nier. Okay, what was I doing? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, out of the core four, Nier is the one character who has humility. Elle develops humility over time, but it's not realized until episode 25.
Yeah.
Mello has humility at the very end of his arc, but for most of it, he's pretty arrogant.
I love Mello.
He needs no explanation concerning his massive ego. But Nier is the only character who's like, okay, I'm not here to become God of the New World and play God and whatever. I'm not here to get an ego boost over defeating one of my detective rivals. To get an ego boost out of solving cases. I just want to stop the bad guy. I just want to stop the crazy serial killer. That's what I'm called to do, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And he does just that.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I can't wait to get that part. It was so satisfying in this show because I was so afraid the entire time that Light was gonna win. I know that you had told me he fails, but like I was so afraid that he was gonna win anyway, just because like that would have been the edgiest thing to do if that makes sense. And I've had shows that like had a really bad ending just to be edgy and different or whatever. So I was actually glad that Light got clapped at the end, which does not mean I am happy that a character died, because like of course we should not be happy that Light died. Like I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I'm glad that justice prevailed, I guess.
It's exactly true. And I love what they did in episode 37, but when he's running away and reflecting on what his life could have been, the song that plays is arguably the most depressing song I've heard in any TV show. Anime for sure. Any TV show in general, possibly. In all media, no. The Requiem for a Dream main theme wins. But
whoa, that's a big hand. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Hands are weird. Hands are very weird.
Dude, sorry, I had to say that. That was anyway. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, the Elno Kaku. That's the name of the song. When Light is, he's already been defeated by Nier. Matsuda shoots Light in self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
And after that happens, he's running away in shame. And the song that plays is so depressing that I don't want to rewatch episode 37 at this point in time, because whenever I think about that song, or whenever I think about that episode, that is one of the first things that pops into my mind, and I get depressed. Because not only is that song in a minor key, but the slow tempo and the instruments used in it just strike every single possible sad note that you can think of.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Like, like the serial killer, the bad guy, he lost. We should be happy, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're not. It's not played up as some happy, wonderful moment. It's played as something extremely depressing. And I think that's the only route you could go with it, because Light threw his life away.
Mm-hmm. He did.
He threw his life away.
He threw his life away. He threw his life away, and like even his own treacherous Shinigami tried to warn him. I'm sorry if I pronounced the word wrong. It's my Texas accent seeping in. I'm sorry, but like even yeah, yeehaw. Even his own Shinigami was like warned him, like, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, I want to do this. And it's like, are you sure? And he's like, I'm sure. You know what I mean? So it's like and not to mention like there were so many opportunities he had. Like, for example, in the Yotsuba arc, when he just takes away, when like the notebook is just taken away from him and stuff like that, and like, or when he forfeits ownership of the notebook temporarily to protect himself, like, you can see what would have happened. Like, he and Elle and Misa could have been like, again, this is a Shira reference, the best friend squad 2.0. But like, but it didn't happen because Light is a freak. So it makes me so sad because I do think that Elle genuinely I think that he genuinely cared about him. So, or like, he came to over time, maybe is what I mean to say.
Yeah, and we don't really get that. One advantage that the anime has is that it softens L more than the original manga. Because in the original manga, as we were talking about before, L still has the scene where he says that Light is his first ever true friend. But
Yeah.
then the creators, Oda and Obata, were like, oh, L was lying through his teeth. He actually never liked Light. They were only just, co-workers for a time.
Oh no,
But
I
that
don't.
was the original manga. When you look at the anime, on the other hand, the episode 25 scene where Elle is standing in the rain, along with showing his backstory of how he was an orphan and adopted by Whammy, you know,
Yeah.
his real name is Quillish Whammy, but
Yeah.
he goes by Rockbury throughout most
Yeah.
of the show.
Watari.
That's context. When Whammy adopts Elle Lalia, and you see Elle washing and drying the feet of Light,
Mm-hmm.
and how kind he is to him. The anime version of L, on the other hand, you would think maybe his friendship is actually genuine
Yeah.
with Light in this version of the story.
Yeah, at least I think he
Instead of
thought
being
so.
fake like in the original manga.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
when I was rereading the manga version, I had to check back with chapter 58 because in the manga version, that's when Light successfully kills L. The
Mm-hmm.
serial killer, the bad guy, kills off the detective, the good guy. And when I was looking through 58, I was like, wait a minute. Where's the rain scene? Where's the cleaning of the feet scene? Where are the church bells?
Yeah,
Like, where's that?
I think if that's
I was
missing.
surprised to remember. I thought that scene was. It's a Mandela effect where I thought that was in the original manga, but it's not. The church bell stuff and Elle taking care of Light like a genuine friend.
Yeah.
That is anime original.
Yeah, that's
And I forgot
weird.
about that until recently.
That's really weird because I think that because the rain scene is so important. It's my favorite scene in the whole show. It's so important because it shows that like Elle is becoming more humble and going back to his more humble beginnings, if that makes sense. And he's not perfect at the end, of course, because he never really got a chance like as Elle. You know what I mean? I know he survived. He's still in the show in spirit via his successors, but he never really gets a chance to go further with this. But I think that it was the beginning of a real like change to being a more humble person. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you
And
can
he
see.
has this.
Go ahead.
He does grow in humility. He
Yeah.
does grow in humility, but it's not. Humility is the virtue that takes down pride. And
Mm-hmm.
again, out of the core four characters, Nier is the only one who's consistently humble.
Yeah.
Ellen improved, but it was not consistent.
Yeah.
Mello improved, but it was certainly not consistent.
Yeah.
And obviously, Light got worse. So, yeah.
I think that I think that and you can see I kept remembering like at the because I'm rewatching the show with a more analytical eye because like before I was just trying to have background noise while I was working on my commission, um but I did find like you remember that scene where where Light is just staring at him and he's just like, why are you staring at me? You've been staring at me for the past 2 minutes. Wait a second. I bet you're annoyed because you're the only one not eating cake at the moment. And then he offers his food to him. Like that's so it's so dorky, but it's also like I actually think it's a really important part of his arc. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like the whole reason at the beginning that like at least this is the impression I got, that L hid his face and stuff and didn't show himself, is because he didn't consider it worth his time, you know what I mean, to like interact with normal humans. And normal humans is in like, you know, the general society and stuff.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason why L is so likable, because he's
Yeah.
so quirky and wholesome.
Yeah, he
Like, and
is.
even when his most evil moment is during the hostage stuff with Misa and Light.
Yeah.
But like, you still forgive him for that because one, he's fighting for the greater good, and two, you can't help but like him. You can't help him.
Yeah. You really can't. And I'm just like, that means a lot to me as somebody on the spectrum, because I'm just like, oh, maybe I'm just like, maybe that's my traits aren't so bad, and maybe they actually like make people like me more in some situations, you know what I mean? So, cuz he I can only name like a couple of traits that he has. Mainly, like he speaks in monotone most of the time. Then that's common with people on the spectrum. I don't do that, but other people I know do. So that's the main thing that's different between the two of us. But like everything else is to a T, like all the time. Especially when you get so busy on stuff that you forget to like shower and take care of yourself and sleep. Like that is a huge mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. L's sleeping is not something that happens often at all. I
Nope.
think in one bonus question, like FAQs that were asked to Oba and Obata,
Mm-hmm.
I think they said L only sleeps about 1 or 2 hours a day.
That sounds accurate. And that sounds accurate. I remember that in the show they were talking about how like they're like, I'm beginning to think he's not even human. Does he ever sleep? And then like one of the guys is just like, yeah, he fell asleep sitting in that exact position once. That's about the sleep I would get if I didn't have medication and stuff. Though I think for him it's more of an issue of hyper focus. Like he's just so determined to solve this case. I don't know.
Like he's brilliant.
Yep. It is.
Yeah. I do think the show is brilliantly written. And going back to the original talking topic, while the Successors arc is the weakest concerning pacing, and I do wish Mello and Nier got more character development. Matt too, because like Matt's very involved in the manga, while in the anime he is irrelevant and useless.
That's annoying.
Matt is so useless in the anime. I've said this before.
I didn't even know he existed.
Minutes shot and dies, and that's the end of Matt. It's really bad. But you know, it goes on a scale. Nier could have been given a few more scenes, but overall his development's still decent. Mellow, I gotta chalk that up to missed potential overall.
Yeah.
That is super high missed potential. Like, it gets worse the farther down you go in the ranks of that class, where Nier was first, Mello was second, and Matt was third.
Yeah.
Now, Mello was technically tied for first with Nier, technically, because both of them appeared to Roger concerning being the top candidates. Technically, they were tied, but we all know that Nier was the true successor, not only because of what's revealed in that scene, but also with how the series ends.
Yeah. I do think that it's important. I do think that the fact that both Nier and Mello were on the case and they were both acting as successor to L is important, because it shows that like, while L may have been I guess kind of arrogant at times and stuff like that, as represented by Mello, sometimes that like brashness, you know what I mean, and that passion for doing the right thing by any means necessary and stuff like that, sometimes that's what you need. Like, I like that the show doesn't completely dismiss that idea, because sometimes you do get in those very tough moral situations where you're like, okay, how do we prevent the most evil we can? while trying to achieve this goal or something like that. You know what I mean? And I think that Nier is a great, or sorry, what am I saying? Mello is a great example of that, but ultimately Mello pays the price for that, which is why it's just like, yes, L's weaknesses were sometimes like he was correct to follow them, but other times it was a really bad thing, and with Mello, it cost him his life, basically.
Nier 2 is another example of his humility,
Mm-hmm.
is where he actually gives Mello thanks beyond the grave, where he admits to Light, you know what, I would have lost, but this is all thanks to Mello.
Mm-hmm.
And Light's like, what the heck are you talking about? And he's like, Mello was the one to help get this action plan started. He's the one who took initiative, not me.
Mm-hmm.
Without him, I would have lost, and all of these police officers and all of these detectives and myself would be dead right now. But he stepped up, he finally teamed up with me, and we were able to catch the serial killer.
Yeah.
And I love how, like, as cold as Nier is, he will give credit when credit is due. And this was like some kind of eulogy for Mello, where Nier was giving him one last thank you of being willing to help him stop the bad guy. And
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing that I like about Nier's humility. Like, he may be cold and blunt, but if you do a good job, he will praise you for it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what he does with Mello.
My favorite thing about Nier is the fact that he's always playing with toys, and he uses his toys to like visualize his thoughts and stuff like that. It's very common for people on the spectrum to had to struggle with abstract thought and stuff. And there's also one of these scenes where he's like playing with a race cars or something, and he just makes a little vroom sound as he like races them around the track. It's pretty cute. I don't know.
Yeah, Nier is easy to like on the rewatch. Concerning the L clone accusation, I did used to fall into that, but after doing a few rewatches, I'm like, you know what? No. Nier is a good character, and he doesn't get enough credit. Although I will say, his manga version is the best version, because we get all of that humility from the anime version, but it's more fully fleshed out. It's
Yeah.
like reading the original manga is like getting a director's cut of the successor arc. And I would say the successor arc is actually just as good as any of the Light versus L arcs in the
Yeah.
original manga. I
I
would actually slate it higher than the Yotsuba arc slightly, because the Yotsuba arc cuts out the L humility development scenes that are in episode 25.
right.
So his not only that, but L's passing is way more anticlimactic in the manga. The the equivalent of the OG manga, that is one thing the anime does way better.
What do you mean
L's
L's
death,
casting?
yeah, like L's death in
Oh.
the manga is surprisingly sudden, and because of that, it comes off as a little anticlimactic in contrast.
Yeah.
In the anime, you expect it at least a little bit, but even with that, there is this wonderful build to such a wonderful character's arc being closed.
Yeah.
And because of that, the thematics and storytelling are stronger concerning finishing L's arc in the anime version. So, concerning the L death handling, the anime is better,
I would
100%.
I would
The
agree.
the manga doesn't give L that grand send off like the anime does. Instead, in the manga, it's like L walks into the room to prepare the plan to expose the 13-day rules falsehood, and then he dies. And that's that.
Ugh.
And but the anime, on the other hand, of course, adds in the rain scene, adds in L humbly
Yeah.
cleaning off Light's feet. There's the church bells, the backstory given at the very beginning of the episode, the hints at Whammy's house, which does a brilliant job of setting up Nier and Mello.
Mhm.
The anime does that better than the manga.
Yeah.
Like, easily.
I definitely feel as though I definitely, and I think that it surprises me when people like when I don't know, it surprises me that in the manga there's not as much like genuineness between them, if that makes sense, because I'm like, that's the whole point of the tragedy, especially with the rain scene, which kind of makes it similar to Jesus and Judas and stuff like that. And I'm just like, why? I'm like, that's that. I think that them at least showing some sort of like genuineness between the two of them from time to time, it really sells you the fact that like, hey, if Light had just like forgotten about the notebook and gone about with his life, like he would still have been caught. Like I'm not saying he wouldn't have been caught or that he didn't need to atone for those sins and stuff, but I still think that he and Elle could have been friends even if he was like behind bars. Because I'm just like, I don't think that Elle hates criminals, at least from what I have observed. He seems to be, like you said, he's a lawful neutral, meaning he mainly does this for the fun of it, you know. Um, but at the same, like he was willing to work with criminals on this case, for example, you know. So I don't think that he hates criminals. What?
Eyebrows stand out to me concerning those examples. You remember those two? Weddy
Yeah.
is a thief and Eyebrows a con man? Yeah, those two.
Yeah, those ones. He was willing to work with criminals, so I don't think he would have immediately just ditched Light once he found out he was Kira, apparent, assuming that Light didn't just face the death penalty, but I don't know about that. But
He would have.
he would have.
Japan still has capital punishment, and they will off people on. And here's the thing: Japan's penalty system is guilty until proven innocent.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I played Ace Attorney.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
It's like if you get accused, you're going to the gallows.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and so I'm just saying, like in the most ideal situation possible, where Light ended up behind bars, I don't think that Elle would have just been like, well, see ya, like, you know what I mean? I feel like after all that time, he would have been like, he would have at least like come to visit, maybe, I don't know, but as far as Misa goes, I hope that she ended up just going to prison because I like Misa, and I think that she was a victim in all this too, even though she did some horrible things too, but I think she was mostly a victim in this situation.
Yeah, and it is left ambiguous in the anime, although it is pessimistically.
Yeah.
In the original manga, she does go to prison.
Yeah.
And away in prison.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's so not fair because like Light totally used her, and I feel like now it is true she did kill those like petty criminals to get to Light, like to meet Kira and stuff like that. But I don't think that like she's not like Light where she is doing this because she enjoys it. I mean, once she meets Light, she's basically has a knife at her throat now, so she has to cooperate. So.
Yeah, and it's so sad because Light was the one who ended up killing the murderer, Misa's parents.
Yeah.
And was gonna offer. Wait, no, hold on. No. Okay, I have the details mixed up. Okay, so Light, Misa thought that Kira was the one who killed the criminal that killed her parents and was going to kill her. But that's an improper displacement because Light's actually not the one to kill them. It was Jealous. But even wait a minute.
Jealous?
I'm getting details.
Who's Jealous?
I was saying a point, but I realized that my memory was wrong, and I was speaking falsely.
Oh, okay.
Never mind.
As far as I'm aware, Light was the one who did that.
I was getting Misa's backstory with her goal of meeting Light confused for a second. Oh. Sometimes I do that if I talk too fast.
No, you're good.
And that's exactly what
you're fine. Yeah, you're fine.
Scratch that, reverse it. Never mind. The past minute does not matter in any regard. Anyway.
Yeah.
The thing with her is that it's so weird. I vigilante justice is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, mm,
Oh, it was Jealous. The No, no, no. It was Jealous. The Shinigami. Yeah, it was him. I just
yeah,
remembered.
he was the one to
I
save
forgot.
Misa's life by killing off the murderers.
Yeah, I was
But then
like,
the
Jealous?
the
Who's that?
parents was going to kill her, and yeah. But after that, I think now that I have my thoughts organized, that perhaps subconsciously awakened something in Misa where now she likes vigilante justice because of what
Yeah.
happened to her. And that might have played a part in her coming to appreciate Kira too. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if the manga or anime ever confirms that,
Hello.
but you know that's kind of what happens.
That
But
is true.
Misa is well, while you understand, well, you get why she appreciates vigilante justice, whether it's a subconscious thing or an active thing. It's really messed up where she'll say things like, "Oh, what a beautiful way to kill," or
Yeah, of
whatever. Like,
course. Of course it is.
girl, that's messed up. Like, what are you
I'm not
don't
saying.
you understand the sanctity of life? Do
Yeah,
you?
that is true. And I do think, like, I'm not saying Misa was a perfect person. I don't think she was a bad person, though. Like, I think that she's a very foolish and like undiscerning one, basically, because she got caught in a bad situation where she killed people to meet a serial killer, and then she thought it would be a good idea to date that serial killer. That's kind of stupid. That's kind of foolish. I'm not saying Misa's stupid, although some people would argue that. I actually think Misa's very smart. She's just also very obsessive, and that makes her look a lot dumber than she actually is. Hot takes, I know. So,
I wouldn't call her very smart. I would say she has
I mean,
I would say she has decent. She has a decent level of intelligence that's like solid mid tier, but her wisdom is bottom of the barrel. So
oh
it
yeah.
balances out to being a low.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying, yeah, I don't know if I meant to say very smart. I'm just saying she's a lot smarter than people give her credit for. Um, yeah. I like the bant.
Yeah.
I love the banter between her and
Mm-hmm.
Elle because regardless of how you feel about Misa's intelligence, Elle is running circles around that woman, and she gets so incensed about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like her backstory, but you know she can get immature at times, which isn't a likable trait. But I still feel bad for her, even though, again, vigilante justice is not okay.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why people like Light more than Misa is because with Light's vigilante justice, his is a lot more calculated.
Yeah.
While with Misa's, it's flimsy.
It's
It's
flimsy.
different.
Yeah.
People are more likely to respect something that's calculated than something that's flimsy and whatever. Because especially with how unbridled and uncaring she is concerning other people if it means Light is in danger. And
Mhm.
it doesn't help when she's saying things like, oh, what a beautiful way to kill, or,
Yeah.
you know, if you need me to kill them, then just tell me to kill them and I'll do it. I don't think she even realizes how horrible she sounds when she says that.
I think
It's
that
so
honest. Yeah.
dark and ominous and bone chilling for someone to say that. It's like you realize murder is a very heinous sin, right?
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She
Yeah.
doesn't.
I understand that for sure. I think, and this is gonna sound sexist. I don't really care. I'm not. I don't. Yeah, I don't care. But like, I think, I think that Misa is exactly the sort of person that like, the incel, MGTOW nice guys group think that women are like, where it's just like, oh, I'll just go out with the bad boy because I love being treated like crap, and it's like, Oh dear me. Misa is reinforcing that stereotype, isn't she?
Correct.
And I'm not saying that's bad writing, of course, because there are women who, like, for example, they simped for, like, Ted Bundy or something like that. So I'm not saying it
Yeah,
doesn't happen. It doesn't happen nearly as often as these people seem to think.
that's very true. And Misa is so irresponsible
Oh, yeah.
and foolish. But I do feel bad for her in the manner that when the successor arc rolls around, she starts getting abused by Light.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing physical, but verbal abuse still counts as abuse.
Well, we
And
don't know what went on behind closed doors, but I guess, you know
that
what I mean?
we don't see it, but it wouldn't shock me if Light started hitting her.
Yeah, it
And
wouldn't
he
shock me either.
when what was it? I forget what episode it is. I think it's in the early 30s where Nier is able to trap Light in a really tight place, and he starts screaming at Misa. And soon after that happens, Misa brings him a cup of tea to help him calm down. You
Yeah.
can tell that she still cares about him. And then Light knocks the teacup and the plate out of her hand onto the floor without looking at her.
Yeah.
It's like I this is a heavy
Oh,
Joker Harley kind of relationship now.
yeah, I don't.
And it's
Yeah.
gross. It's nasty. It's gnarly. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I do not like how Light treats her. It reminds me in like a different manner, of course, because this is a romantic setting, but like it reminds me of Shadow Weaver actually, except like Shadow Weaver's way more overt about it and stuff like that. Yeah, she's worse than Light when it comes to abusing people. but I found it I felt bad for her. I felt bad for her because there were people who genuinely did care about her. I mean, obviously Matsuda, like Matsuda's her biggest fan. but I also think L cared about her, and part of me wonders if he suspected something messed up was going on with Light. But we may never know.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Elle never, even when Light lost his memories, Elle always suspected at least a little bit that Light was Kira.
Yeah.
Like, Elle had a gut feeling that Light was the bad guy, the serial
Yeah.
killer, but he could never prove it, unfortunately. Thankfully, Nier could,
Mhm.
with help from Mello, obviously.
Dude.
So the bad guy lost, and everything's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
but the successor arc is in the anime. I would still say it's the weakest of the four, but that's only because of how the plot pacing is slower, so you're going to be less entertained.
Yeah, that's
However,
true.
I wish Nier and Mello especially got a little more time to develop, especially Mello.
Yeah.
But the arc still does a great job of explaining why Light lost, why he's a terrible person, and his downfall.
Yeah.
And I've said this before. The show is basically concerning his downfall. It's Judas, the Antichrist, and Satan all rolled into one character.
All rolled into big one disgusting pile of crap. All right.
Yep. And that's obviously the Judas comparison in episode 25 is the easy one to detect. And
Yeah.
the Antichrist comparison in the intro is easy to detect.
Intro and when he
yeah.
Intro and when he takes the place of L. He's like a false L.
Yeah. But the Lucifer slash Satan one is a lot more subtle. When you think about it, it's like, okay, so he starts out on good footing, but he wants to be God. He wants to stand like the Most High, as Isaiah 14 says. And he does that. And the longer time goes on, the worse he gets. And he tries to be God and God in the New World, but ultimately he fails, falls super hard, and finishes in absolute misery.
Mhm.
And the Lucifer allegory is a lot more subtle, but when you think about his arc, it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, I wouldn't.
I don't know
Go ahead.
if I don't know if Oba and Obata intentionally made him into a Lucifer allegory, or
They
if it
did.
was accidental. But either way, it works for him really well and shows the dangers of pride gone to the highest degree.
I actually think that that was intentional. I don't know if they've said anything about it, but you can see that a lot. Like I was telling my mom, because my mom's gonna watch it with me this summer, because she was intrigued by the allegorical aspect of it. Um, my mom wanted to. My mom was saying, and I was telling her, look, so there's gonna be a scene where Light kills a guy and has him write a pentagram. This is not like supposed to be indication that there are demons doing this. This is just some crazy stupid human who's doing it. And she's like, "Oh, that makes sense, especially with what you've already told me about the Lucifer allegory." So I actually think it's a lot more obvious if you look at the pentagram scene alone. Even though, like, it's just like, well, somebody could say, "Well, that was an allegory, Joy," because it was just like he was just testing, and I'm like, right, that's the whole point of allegory, is that it's symbolic. So,
Pretty much. Yeah, but I've said before that Light is the best written character in the show simply because his arc is so interesting. But that doesn't mean that if I had to choose someone to root for without, you know, without considering any writing proponents, if I was rooting for someone for pure enjoyment rather than story narrative, I'd be rooting for L, obviously, because
of
he is the good
course,
guy. You
Elle's
know,
great.
like Light is not likable, but that is okay because
That's the whole point.
the point of Light is not to have him likable. The point of his arc is to show the dangers of how absolute power corrupts absolutely, and how pride comes before a fall, and playing God is a terrible idea. So he needs to be hateable, and he needs to be a terrible person you root against.
Yeah,
Which, he's interesting, but is he likable? Nope, not at all.
I'm torn on that actually, because like okay, so here's the thing. So when I have very complicated feelings on Light, that I don't have like hot takes like the fandom does or whatever, but I do have some like complicated opinions on him, because here's the thing. I am a person who naturally likes villains. Like, usually the villain is my favorite character in the entire thing. This is the only time when that has been an exception. But that being said, it's like they may not make Light himself sympathetic, but they make it so you can understand and sympathize with his situation. Here's what I mean. Whenever he's running from the cops at the end, he's looking back and you remember, like, oh yeah, this guy was just a normal kid who picked up a notebook one day. Funny that. And it's just that situation where you're like, oh yeah, this guy was just a normal person, and even though maybe you don't like him now and stuff, you like him for what he could have been or what he once was. Does that make sense? So I love Light.
Actually, no. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
where you're coming from.
I like Light. The problem is that I want to scream at him, which is the case with most villains. So I don't know. I don't want to say sympathize him and say the same way I would sympathize with, like, um let me think of somebody. Zuko. Let's say that, because Light had
Zuko is great. I
Light
love Zuko.
Light had so many opportunities to change and be a better person, and I'm not saying for anybody who's watching that it's bad that Light lost in the end. I actually think that's the only way that the story could have worked. But I am saying I can understand where he's coming from the entire way. In that regard, I do sympathize with him. I do not like what he is doing. That this is not Light apologism. I've it's like, and I do that with most villains where you love them but you scream at them because they're doing stupid crap. Like, that's part of liking villains. So
That's Light to a T.
yeah,
Yeah, and in episode 1, when he's thinking about all the evil in the world, He's like, you know what? People, this world is rotten, and there's a lot of bad stuff out there.
Yeah.
We relate to that because we love to make the world a better place, but he goes about it completely wrong.
Yeah.
So the idea on the idea board works really well, but in practice, he goes about it completely wrong. And it's like, what if he did it right? Where he did it like his dad, Soichiro, where he goes into the, detective, the police force. With his brain, he becomes, a partner in crime, or rather in crime solving. To L one day, they could have been a powerful duo and become the best detective duo in the world by far.
Yeah.
That's the happy ending, but unfortunately, like, it's the sad ending where he picks up that notebook that you write a name and it kills a person. It's a super magical killing notebook, and
Mhm.
he decides to go about it wrong. And you just think that you had so much potential, and you could have been a crime solver who went about it through noble means, and you didn't. And
Yeah.
that's why he had to fall, because vigilante, we understand why vigilantes do what they do, but it's not okay. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things the show is getting across.
Yeah. I like that that's just taken as a given because so many shows will spend so long laboring on the fact of like, oh, well, this person, can they change because they've done bad things and stuff like that. And I'm like, why is this a question? This isn't worth asking. Of course they can change. Like, that's not the point of this show. Like, stop yammering about stuff that's not a debate. Like, so you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I definitely think that it's like I told you, I have complicated feelings on Light, and um, yeah, I don't know, because the thing with Light is like the trauma that led him to make that choice. Because no, let me put it this way: no healthy person picks up a death notebook, kills a person, and then comes to the conclusion that they are god of the new world. Like no mentally healthy person does that. I'm not saying he's a narcissist. I don't think he's a narcissist. I don't think he's a sociopath. And I don't like when people say that El's a sociopath either. He's not. He's not. But like, here's the thing with here's the thing with Light is that he was just a normal kid who probably felt super super bad about what he'd done at first. Like his conscience, if you watch the first episode, it was pretty wounded. So I can't help but wonder
Oh yeah.
if he chose to go along with this whole thing precisely because he had a wounded conscience and that was the only way he could live with himself. Does that make sense? You know? So
It actually does, and that's probably the most likely case as to why. Well, one of the reasons as to why he keeps going. 'Cause after he does, first of all, he kills the wannabe school shooter and kidnapper.
mhm.
What was that guy's name? I think
I
his
can't
last name
remember.
is Oto Haruda. The second guy is someone who attempted assault, Takao Oshibimaru, I think.
Yeah.
And after the second time, he's like, "Oh my gosh, this magical killing notebook, it's for real.
Yeah.
It's like a gun, but in notebook form." And it freaks him out, and he's just running through the rain. He's breathing. It's like he's having an asthma attack. But after having a revelation, he's like, "No, this world's rotten, and I'm going to kill off all the criminals to make this world a better place." And then in the timeline, we skip ahead to a week later. Ryuk shows up as Light's chuckling
Yeah.
evilly, and it's like, wow, he's killed off hundreds of criminals by now. What's going on? And that so in the timeline of the show, it took a week before Light started to fall off the wagon.
Yeah, I do want yeah, and I do think cuz some people seem to think that he had this in mind from the beginning. I don't agree with that. I think that he's just a normal kid who's, yeah, he's probably a little bit self centered, but he's, that's normal for kids his age and stuff like that. But it's, yeah, it's really sad. And I think I keep remembering that scene where he's looking through that like lingerie magazine or whatever, and and his dad is like watching from the surveillance, and he's just like, I can't believe my son is looking at that stuff. And El's like, he's a 17-year-old, like this is normal. I did weird stuff like that too. And it's just so funny because it's like, oh man, if this is what El is like now, I wonder how he was when he was Light's age. Like I feel like, I don't know. I'm just throwing thoughts, but I do think that that's,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying,
L's 24.
yeah.
Shoot.
I was gonna say, because I wanted to add, I'm just like, so here's the thing. I don't care about ships, not really. That's not important for this story, but like, I think that people who ship L and Light don't realize how much older L is than Light. And like, they have about the same age disparity that you and I do, but like the differences were adults. It's like Light, like they began chase, like L began to chasing Light when he was like seven, when L, Light, when Light was like 17 or something like that. So
Yeah, Light was 17 and L was 24. And by the end of the Yotsuba arc, Light is 18 and L is 25.
yeah, that's not okay. That's a little bit too. It's a little bit. I'm not saying it's always bad news, but it often is. So, but I don't really care what people ship. I don't have the energy to care.
Shipping is weird in general. Also, with looking back at Nier, another thing I like about him is that concerning the ends justifying the means, another thing that I just thought of,
They didn't just
another
kill
reason why
L off, yeah, or they didn't just kill
is
Light off, yeah.
that he what's great is that Nier is the only one who doesn't believe, at least in full, that the ends justify the means. Like, Light obviously believes that. Mello definitely does. L does too, and he uses that to try and catch Light slash Kira. Nier is the only one of the main four that doesn't. He's someone who plays nobly, and I can't think of a single time in which Nier used an illegal or dirty tactic in order to try and make confirm that Light was Kira. I can't think of a single time that he breaks the law or comes close to breaking the law in order to achieve. And I
Yeah,
think that's their great subtle message that, like, this show is all about characters who believe ends justify the means. But whenever you believe that, you get killed off at one point or another, or your life falls into misery. And out of the core four characters, Nier is the only one that doesn't adhere to that mantra. And he's the only one of the four that survives.
yeah, I agree with that, although it is worth saying that Nier had access to like like at least somewhat access, because I guess Watari, he erased all of the he erased all of the data from L's computer before he died. But the thing with Nier is that it like a lot of the groundwork for that case had been laid out by L. So it's also like, I think that the show ultimately achieves a balance, which is that, like, yes, sometimes you do end up in situations where you have to be morally shady in order to, like, for for the greater good, but that shouldn't be your go-to, and you should avoid it at all costs if you can.
That's how Nier played it. And if I recall correctly, he functions the same way in the manga, where whenever it comes down to playing with fire and going off the deep end or skirting the line, crossing the line, he's like, no, that's not how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
While with Mello, on the other hand, it's like, oh boy, I'm going to use any means necessary to.
Yeah.
And that's how the successor arc works, where Nier and Mello are opposites in nearly every regard, but when you combine them together, it's like L is back, and that's entirely the point.
Yeah.
Where Nier is the calm, wise, and noble side of L,
Yeah.
while Mello is the passionate, aggressive, and chaotic, ends justifies the means,
Yeah.
impure side of L.
Yeah, and I felt like But I do think that I was just thinking like Mello is basically L if he'd gotten some sleep or something, because like I could not see L having any of the energy to pull what Mello did. But yeah, you're right.
Mello is insane, and he, as you said, he's so extra. But that's why people like him.
I like him for that. Yes, we like the whammy boys in this house. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like and it's interesting because they chose it's still a resurrection motif, and that's why I think Elle was really like a Jesus figure in this story. But it's not like your traditional one where he literally comes back from the dead. I think that that would have destroyed the tension and removed the stakes completely. So they managed to pull it off while not doing that, so I'm glad for that. Can you hear me? Seems like we've got some internet going on.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Cool. I'm just getting my Death Note brain rot the entire time.
Light should have just paid attention in class, honestly. It really saved him so much trouble.
I know, right? The real lesson of Death Note is like, kids, do your homework. Kids, pay attention to class.
Mind your business.
I don't know how to draw knees, apparently. Okay, hold on. I gotta do something unorthodox. I only have after this stream, I'm only gonna have 13 chapters left of Starwalker to illustrate.
Stretch.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I was thinking like, I was saying like we love the whammy boys in this house.
Yeah, definitely. I ran off to do something.
Yeah, no worries. I thought your
Yeah,
internet had
but-
bleeped out, so.
No, I was grabbing a drink and using the restroom. That's all.
Fair.
Standard life stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I like Nier and Mello the more I think about it, but the manga does capture their arcs better than what the anime does.
I wasn't sure. I was worried I was gonna hate Nier because he's not L, but he grew on me. He grew on me, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've come around on Nier too. He's not exciting like L is, but within the themes and lessons that the show is trying to tell you, he works so well. And I like how he's a good guy that one can root for, and who's one of the few like noble characters in the series, because
Yeah.
you have Nier, you have Soichiro, and you have Aizawa. They're both they're all three of them are intelligent, competent, and also just trying to do the right thing and stop the bad guy.
Matsuda's trying though. Matsuda's trying. It made me sad that you omitted him from the. I guess competent is one area he struggles in, but still, I love Matsuda.
That's the thing. Matsuda is so pure and innocent, but he's not competent at his job. But that helps world build. So I could see why that happens to him. Although he is really likable in the manner that he is a cinnamon roll, and you can't help but like him, because if most of us were in that position, we would probably do the same things that Matsuda does.
Oh yeah.
Honestly.
We
Like,
would
he's
probably
very relatable, you know, and
yeah.
he's got good morals and values, and he's relatable. It's just that he's not competent.
Yeah.
I think he has potential to be competent because he does successfully sneak past the guards in the Yotsuba building. So I think if he were more careful, his plan of spying on the Yotsuba CEOs and gathering information on Kira, I think that could have worked. The idea is actually smart, but the execution is dumb.
I love
Because as we know, he ends up getting too careless, he stumbles into the meeting by accident, and they have to pull off a rescue mission. And that's where things fall apart.
Yeah.
I think there are
Give
times
him
where
an A for effort.
Matsuda does.
Yeah, we give him an A for effort.
Yeah, like Matsuda does actually have pretty good ideas at times, but the execution is poor. And that's where they need to get fleshed out better with someone like Soichiro or Aizawa in the room. I'm not sure if Aizawa would actually help flesh out those ideas because Aizawa does not like Matsuda. So he would need someone like Soichiro who does like Matsuda.
I think that I felt so bad for L during that whole arc because he had to pretend to be a college frat boy in order to get Matsuda out of a jam he ended up in. I just picture every time Matsuda does something that mildly inconveniences the group, L is just like, I'm the world's greatest detective. I'm so done with this BS. Like, it's like, yo, Matsuda. No, it's Matsui. This is the alias. I'm so bad. I didn't even quote it correctly. Wow, I'm great. Anyway.
Yeah, it's more like, sweet. You want to go drinking tonight? It's closer to something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that entire rescue mission is fun.
It's so funny.
But I do feel bad for Matsuda, especially since his goal was to become more useful to the team and prove his worth, but he made it worse. And
yeah.
Again, his idea of infiltrating Yotsuba actually works in a vacuum. It's a pretty smart idea. It's just that the execution stank. That's the problem with it. And where it's like, that's where the lesson is, while the idea is good, you need to talk to someone that's wiser than you, like Soichiro, for example, to help flesh out the idea and see if you can find a plan to make sure it's executed rightly, that you don't need to do a rescue mission.
Yeah.
I
love Matsuda.
Matsuda got bullied by nearly everyone, so I get why he kept the idea to himself because he didn't want to be condescended to. But the only person who treated him with respect consistently was Soichiro, the chief. I'm sure that he would have heard out Matsuda, and even if he rejected the idea,
L, you say?
At least would have given
Soichiro.
Matsuda the light of day. You know?
Yeah.
I think it would have had potential to work if he just talked about it to a person he trusts.
Yeah.
Who would actually listen to him, and that was Soichiro, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, Matsuda's doing his best. He gets sidetracked sometimes. I feel like, yeah. I also love when, like, Light and L are just punching each other in the face in Misa's room, and then Matsuda's like, we have to stop him. Then he calls him to tell him something about, like, Misa's ratings or something, and L's just like, I'm so done with this BS.
It's like, Matsuda's being stupid again. Well, it is his MO. And he's like, I can hear you, you know.
I love how he answers the phone in like a praying mantis position too. That was just so great. He's just like, stop everything, we got a phone call, and then he's just like, are you serious?
Yeah, and Matsuda's like, hey, Ryuzaki, look, Misa's number 1 on the popularity polls. Really? That's so great.
Yeah.
Matsuda's easy to like because of how wholesome he is, but maybe we can relate to the cringy moments. We feel embarrassed on Matsuda's behalf
Yeah.
whenever he says something off the cuff in a meeting or stumbling into the Yotsuba CEO room. Not CEO, but like CEO candidate room.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this didn't need to happen, dude. Why?
Yeah, for sure. Matsuda's my second favorite character after L. I relate to his klutziness, and he might be the purest soul in this entire show besides maybe Nier. Nier's the only other pure soul.
I'd rate Matsuda above Nier.
Yeah, I would rate him above Nier as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a world filled with lights, Misas, and Higuchis, you need someone like Matsuda there.
Right.
Yeah. But you could put Mello in that level too. I mean, he fights for the greater good, but wow.
Yeah.
He's off the rails. He works with a flippin' Yakuza. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not gonna win you morality points.
Yeah, no joke. But, yeah, and you know what's interesting is, like, even though Nier has L's eyes, and that's why I headcanon them to be, like, cousins or something like that, um, like, they're not wild, if that makes sense. There's not that wildness to them. I think that L's seen some crap, like, in his other cases and stuff.
Huh.
So,
All you need to do is read the LA baby murder case story.
I'm going to.
Prequel.
I'm going
Picture
to.
of that.
I'm going to. I have to wait for. I have to wait till I have some money to get it because I want it. I want more L content. I need it. It's like a drug. If I don't have it, I am sad. Okay. But I do want to read that because it also has Naomi.
Yeah, Naomi is one of the most important side characters in the series.
Yeah, I love Naomi.
Oh my word. Yeah, she's definitely one of the pure heroes in the series too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel awful for her.
I think I want it. I think that one of the best arguments against the idea that L is just a sociopath is the fact that whenever he heard that she was gone, he was like, "Oh my goodness, like that's really upsetting" and stuff like that. Or, well, not in those words, he's L, but like he was basically kind of troubled because he's like, "I remember that person. I worked with her, and she was great." So he does remember people who have earned his respect. So which
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah, and she's one of the smartest characters in the series.
yeah.
I mean, the 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 13th novel is not written by Oba and Obata, so
Yeah.
the stats and bio aren't exactly accurate, but Naomi Misora's intelligence rating is the same as Mello's.
Oh wow.
Now, the novel is not canon to the OG manga, so we have to take the ratings with a grain of salt. But honestly, I could see it. Naomi is absolutely brilliant, and I could see her as being like maybe going toe to toe with Mello or Nier on occasion, or being just as smart as Matt.
Yeah.
Smarter than Matt, who was in place in their graduating class at Lammy's house.
Yeah.
The Naomi's brilliant.
Yeah.
She's very smart, and I've only read bits and pieces of the LABB case, but from what I remember, her and L work together well, and she's very intelligent. Yeah.
I like how even though L is a lawful neutral, he's like, that's disgusting. You're trying to get my attention by murdering a bunch of people. Like, that's gross. So
that's yeah. BB is an obsessive fangirl, and that's putting it in a very strange way. But what I remember about the story, that's how I would. It's like all he wants to do is try and trick L. That's his goal, and that's it. Make an unsolvable case for L. That's why he kills people. It's absolutely despicable and terrible. And I, okay,
Yeah. Oh man.
oh, enjoy prison.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would you do such a horrible thing? Obsessive. It's so funny because at that point L wasn't showing his face or anything like that, so it's not, I mean, it's not like this guy could get an autograph or something like that, but still. Jeez. When I was writing Starwalker, I tried to make it as close to what might actually have happened in the show as possible. So this scene is definitely one of those times.
I know this isn't directly related to the She-Ra stuff you're doing,
Yeah.
but once you're finished with that, do you think you're gonna get into any DN, alternate secondary timeline fanfics?
It's
The right one where like Light and L team up, and it's like what could have been, or
okay, so I have to stay focused, and if I start consuming fan fictions of Death Note, I am never gonna finish this series. Like seriously, that is how hyper fixated my brain has become on Death Note. And but let's just assume this is after Seraphite when I can actually, do that without it destroying the series I'm trying to write currently. Probably because that's my favorite, like what could have been, along with Lamane, because I kind of ship them. Like it's like I said before. The best way to sum up how I feel about it is like I'm not mad it didn't happen in the show, obviously, but I like the idea. So yeah, might do that. I don't know. I'd have to watch where I step though, because anime fandoms are can be very lewd sometimes.
my yeah. I mean, some are better or worse than others. I could say the one for the FMA franchise, since that FMA Brotherhood is my favorite show of all time. But I also like FMA 2003, just not as much. It's not as bad with us, I would say, but you'll still find it out there.
Of course.
That, yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say Rule 34 crap is not even the worst part of the FMA fan base. The worst things I see out of them are people arguing about whether or not Brotherhood or 2003 is better.
Oh, that sucks. I had people.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's frustrating. I lean Brotherhood, but I like both shows, and I think 2003 has some good points that Brotherhood misses on. I think Ed's character development, you know, I would say he changes more and is more dynamic in Brotherhood, but his character goes deeper in 2003, and it has a more character analysis feel,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So I think 2003 Edward is just as good as Brotherhood Edward, if not slightly better written. And the clever dialogue, the Brotherhood's humor is more slapsticky, while 2003's humor is more based on wordplay.
Mhm.
I've noticed that 2003's dialogue is absolutely clever and witty, very witty. Brotherhood has some very good dialogue too, but concerning cleverness, I think Brotherhood does a better job of having clever shot angles and imagery.
Mhm.
There's one scene in episode 4 where Ed and another character are portrayed as being in the lenses of the same pair of glasses, except Ed is on the left one and this other character is on the right.
Mm.
But I cannot say why that image is placed there because episode 4 is chock full of super heavy spoilers.
Yeah.
So I cannot say why.
Fair enough.
But and another thing, going back to 2003, one thing I like again is the witty dialogue. And there's an example where, like, Ed calls Colonel Mustang this really annoying dude with a god complex, and I can't repeat the exact line because it's so clever but so specific that I can't name it off the top of my head. But the dialogue in 2003 is one of the greatest strengths of that show. I think concerning wittiness and subtle angles taken of storytelling, I think 2003's dialogue is better, but Brotherhood does better with imagery and camera angles and telling the story that way.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm. But but going back to the main point, it's really frustrating when I see people argue about it because I think for the most part, while not everyone sees it this way, for the most part, people will argue from a very biased perspective. I think every single person is biased to one degree or another, but you can tell when someone is actually being overall biased while other people are fighting against it and are being more fair.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, whenever it comes to contrasting and comparing 2003 versus Brotherhood, people can get heated within the FMA franchise fan base concerning which show is better. But in reality, the original manga is better than both. So, I mean, if we're looking at all aspects of the franchise, neither side wins there concerning arguing about the TV shows. And secondly, well, me personally, I do prefer Brotherhood. I don't think it's fair for Brotherhood fans to write off 2003 completely. And I don't think it's fair for 2003 fans to write off Brotherhood completely.
Kind of comes down to which one you saw first, doesn't it?
I actually watched 2003 first, but Brotherhood I like more.
I see.
Yeah, I actually watched 2003 first. I finished the original manga first overall, then I finished 2003, and then I finished Brotherhood. I actually went in order of release. And Brotherhood I like more than 2003. The original manga I like more than both. I would give the manga an 11 out of 10 if I could.
I like, what was I saying? I just, yeah, I was looking at, um, I was looking at the LABB murder book on Amazon because I want to get it, and it had like several of, it had the mangas and the LABB murder case packaged together, but it was like $66. There's no way I can afford that right now. I was just thinking about that. I kind of want to read the manga now though because it seems like Nier and Mello get some more justice in that one than in the anime, and I want to at least be familiar with that.
Yeah, I would
I like anime L better from what you've described though.
Yeah, I think you would still love the original manga version of L. But if you were to go through the manga, I would actually say you might like Nier just as much as L in the original manga.
I think so.
The anime version, I believe you would put him in third for your character ranking.
Yeah, right? It goes L. My 5 favorite characters go in this order. It's L, Matsuda, Nier, Misa, and then Light. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that there's a bit of a gap between Nier and Misa, right?
Not really. Actually, I really like Misa. Like, I never like you were saying. You warned me that she would be annoying. I didn't find her annoying at all, and that's saying something because I get annoyed about people very easily. So, I like Misa. She's adorable, and I feel bad for her. I wish her all the best.
Yeah, I think Nier will rise to number 2 in the manga version for you.
Yeah.
I think he will rise to number 2. Not sure if he beats out L for number 1. But
probably not.
With really perfect confidence, Nier will rise 1 rank when you read the manga version.
I think that is. Yeah. I want to get it. I might ask for it for my birthday. So yeah. I am having I was just like, oh man, there's a novel too. am so addicted to this anime. What have you done to me?
I think it's like, I hate to bring this up, but I think it's like heavily implied that Misa offed herself after Light died.
Yeah, I know. I'm just choosing to read it a different. I'm choosing to read it a different way because because I can't live with that reality.
Yeah, same. It's so sad.
Yeah, it is sad. I choose to go with the manga ending that she just went to prison and stuff. That's a little bit more merciful, I think. Because I'm just like, dude, I think like Misa was a victim of light too. I know she did bad things, but like, she's still a victim of light. So.
Yeah, same. Like, she wouldn't have been pushed to do all of that stuff with, like, the second Kira.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I think she already was gonna do that because of Rem and everything, but...
Yeah, but I don't think...
Yeah, Light kind of...
But I don't think she was... I don't think, like... So here's the thing. Misa did some bad stuff, but she did not try to create herself as god of the new world and justify using that to abuse her significant other. That was Light, not her.
Yeah.
So I'm just like...
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, I think one of these things is not like the other. I'm not saying they weren't both bad, but you know, there's shades of bad, you know.
Yeah, one is kind of evil and the other is super evil.
Yeah, I think that I never saw Misa as a bad person, which maybe I'm wrong about that, and when I get to her in the rewatch, I'll disagree with that opinion, but like on my first rewatch, like she just seems like somebody who is like maybe lonely and desperate for love, and so she goes after the person she thinks killed the burglar who killed her parents. When Light didn't even do that. So
I just rephrasing it. Going, going after the person that aligns with her ideals that were caused by being saved from that wannabe murder.
right.
At least on a subconscious level, because I do headcanon that Jealous wiping out that murderer on to save Misa's life did play a subconscious role in adopting her vigilante views now.
Mhm. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I also like how I know that Misa's a little bit airheaded sometimes, but I don't know. I just find her chemistry and her banter with Elle and Light to just be glorious, especially with Elle. Like they have some of the best chemistry, and I'm not saying romantic chemistry, although like I personally think that they had some of that too, but like I'm talking about like character chemistry. It was just so strong, and so that's why I like Misa as well.
Yeah. I mean, concerning the annoying part, she does get a little whiny during the Yotsuba.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, that's the annoying part for me.
That does.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'm just saying, like, going back to the lines where she'll sometimes say, like, what a beautiful way to kill.
Yeah.
No,
That's
that is not a way to say things like that.
of course. But the problem is the bigger problem is that she's actually supporting what he's doing. It's not the actual words coming out of her mouth. You know what I mean? It's what they represent. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm getting hung up on.
That is concerning, but like, I still don't hate her as others do. I would actually say Misa is the most hated Death Note character.
Are you serious? She does not deserve that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's so wrong. Even over Nier?
Oh, she's more hated than Nier.
That's surprising to me because whenever
with Higuchi concerning hate.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Higuchi and Mika are bottom two.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, because so many people, I was like watching a compilation of Nier playing with his toys, because that's cute to me, I don't know, but the comments were full of people saying how much they hated him, and I was like, what are you saying? All this guy did was exist and not be L. Like,
yeah, that's a problem, and because he's closer to L than what Mello is, the fan base tends to dislike Nier because they accuse him of an L clone. Although, if you look deeper, I would argue he's not, and I know you agree.
Yeah.
On the other hand, Mello normally gets a free pass, and people seem to either be neutral on him or actually like him within the DN fan base because he's different. Like, in many regards. And Nier and L definitely have similarities, but I would not call Nier a clone.
No, he's not a clone. He's more like a cousin.
Looking at the subtlety of his character, I would say he's a half clone at best, and his is like a half clone at worst, and his own character at best.
Yeah, I think that Nier's definitely different than L, but they do share so many similarities that it's like it was obviously not a coincidence. And if you look into the creators' things about them originally were gonna be L's sons, that makes a lot of sense because Nier has like the same eyes and a lot of the same mannerisms. Which Mello does too. Like Mello's the one always eating cake and stuff like that. So
chocolate bars.
Oh, chocolate bars, my bad. Sorry, I'm drawing as I talk and so like my mind is blending everything together.
Surprisingly, was Nier's age. Like,
I think
this
that
kid is like 17, 16. I thought he was like 12.
He's L is like, so if he's L is like 6 or 7 years older than him, give or take. I can't do math, so it may be one of those. But yeah, I think that he was. I wonder if he was supposed to be younger when they had the son's idea in mind because like L is really young. Like I couldn't see that. Which is why personally, and I'm not saying that this is canon, alluded to in canon, anything else, this is just Joy saying a thing about a theory she's got. I think that they are family, but not, like, father and son. Like, they're too close in age for that, but maybe cousins.
In the bulk plot, he's 13 when you first meet him in episode 25, 26. And he is 17 in the bulk plot when we go to 2012 when Light has been ruling over the Earth unstopped for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. 2012. And then Light dies on January 28th, 2013.
Okay, so I guess that would put if L was still alive at that point, I guess it would put them at even more of an age gap there. I guess he would have been 13 and 24. That sounds like about 11 years apart. That's still way too young for L to be his father. I'm not saying that they're father and son. It's just yeah.
Yeah, L would be 28, pushing 29.
Yeah.
Like, I think L's birthday is October 31st.
It is. He was born on Halloween, which I find amazing because he looks like a ghoul. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I should.
Light is a February baby.
Ah.
I don't know when. I can't recall the birthdays of Nier and Mello though. I want to say Mello was
Nier is February. Nier I believe is February as well, but I could be wrong on that. Probably am actually.
No.
But I like to think that Nier saw L as like a big brother or something like that, because like he did say he was his mentor, so there had to have been some times when L came to Whammy to like, be a mentor and stuff like that. So I like to think that they had like a big brother, little brother kind of thing going on.
That actually happens in the live action version.
Oh, it does?
Of the story.
I guessed right then.
During the movie called L Changed the World, which is not as well received as Death Note 1 and Death Note 2, the last name.
Fair enough.
But L Changed the World does have a wholesome moment between Nier and L. It does have that wholesome moment. So you'll still appreciate that one scene at least.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I like to think because like Mello and Nier were, especially Mello, like they were incensed when they found out what had happened to L, and so I think that they both like knew him personally. That's what I think.
Okay, so Nier was actually born on August 24th,
Okay.
1994.
Okay, that makes sense. I was misremembering.
If they were real life characters, he would actually be a year and a half older than me.
Oh, wow.
So I was born in January of '96. Yeah.
Yeah. Was born in July of '03. Okay.
And Mello is December 13th, 1992.
Oh, he's not October?
But I thought he was July at first, but he's not.
Wait, L?
Mello
Oh,
is
I thought you were talking about L. I was confused because you had said he
no
was.
Mello.
Yeah, sorry.
Mello is a Christmas season baby. December
Aww.
13th of 1992. At least in the anime. The manga version happens 3 years earlier, but I normally name off the I normally name off the anime dates because the anime is the version that I've consumed the most
Yeah.
and is my own personal favorite version, even though Nier and Mello get less development. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because of L's arc and how it's more fleshed out in the anime.
L's a
And
soft
also,
boy.
I prefer the anime ending over the original manga ending. I know that's unpopular.
Sinner.
I don't.
I don't even know the difference.
Okay, so the difference is that in the OG manga, Mikami first tells off Light and says, "You're no god and you never were. You're
Oh,
just
yeah.
a heartless, murdering piece of crap," which is exactly right. And Mikami finally sees the light, at least on it. But then Ryuk appears, and Light starts laughing. He's like, "Oh, you guys are screwed now, because now he's going to kill off all of you, and you're going to die, and Al
Oh, God.
from here, injuries covered, and Al, whatever." And then Ryuk says, "No, I'm just going to write your name." And he does.
Oh,
and
that's.
Light pleads with Ryuk to save him. And Ryuk's like, "Dude, you know the rules. You know them. That once a name is written, that person will die from a heart attack, unless you specify otherwise." And that's what I did. You've got 40 seconds. And Light starts cursing out Ryuk and the detectives and police officers. And the last thing that happens is Ryuk is like, "Oh, right, Light, I should tell you. Any Death Note user who uses the notebook, they do not go to heaven nor hell after they die.
He didn't tell him until
They
the
go
very
to
end? Oh my gosh.
They go to nothingness instead." And after he says that, Light has his heart attack, swears one more time, and then dies in a pool of blood.
Oh.
That's the manga version.
Trigger
The
warning.
anime version, on the other hand, as you know, Light runs away from the cops, has a reflection of his past life of what could have been back in episode 1 when Light was a high school student who obeyed the law and wasn't an evil jerk. And there's this heavy emphasis on regret.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you already know, Light runs into another warehouse, collapses on the stairs. Ryuk writes his name, and Light passes on from a heart attack there too, obviously. But instead of pleading with Ryuk to stop the process, and instead of him swearing and cursing out the detectives and police officers, Light dies peacefully.
Yeah, I kind of like that better too, because I'm just like, okay, look, he's lost. He's gonna die anyway. Why are we like, it? If you, from what you're describing, it sounds like the manga is a little bit like, I don't know. They can't seem to make it into kind of a spectacle. But honestly, in both versions, Ryuk being the one to deal the final blow is such a Chad move. I'm sorry, I don't like. I'm not happy that Light died, I promise. I just found it funny that it was his own Shinigami that did it.
Yeah, and it had to be that way. And the reason why I prefer the anime ending is, well, I like how the manga emphasizes how evil Light was. Well, I think the manga does a better job of that than the anime does. But the reason why I like the anime ending more is because it's clear that the stories come full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Where Light's running away, he's running to the right of the screen, while on the other hand, his past self that he's reflecting on is walking towards the left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very telling concerning how camera angles work in Japanese storytelling, because if you see a camera shot of a character walking from left to right in Japanese cinema,
Mm-hmm.
more likely than not, they're actually regressing in character development and are running away from the goal that they need to achieve. On the other hand, if a character is going from right to left, they're actually going in the right direction and they'll probably have a happy ending as
Mm-hmm.
long as they move in that way. And
Hmm.
that serves as a brilliant tell concerning what could have been, because Light from episode 1, seen in that vision that the current present day Light has, that past self is going to the left.
Hmm.
And his high schooler self, who has not committed any crimes or murders, he's handling himself well, he's brilliant, and he's going to be honorable detective one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you light of the present day of how he actually ended up, where he's a mass murderer, the Ted Bundy on steroids. He's running away towards the right, which shows he's lost, he's fallen, and this will not end well for him, and there's no way out.
I did not know any of that.
And the full circle thing with Ryuk too, I think the manga does that well because, Ryuk said he would be dealing the final blow early on, exactly what happens. But the anime emphasizes that character arc more. And that's what I like about the anime version more than the original manga version. The manga version does not have the emphasis on what could have been and the importance of making sure that you don't play God and that you use your power responsibly. And I think the anime does a better job of that.
Yeah.
That's why I like the anime version more of the ending than I do the OG manga version.
That's understandable.
Now, the live action version, I would say in between the OG manga ending and the anime ending.
Huh.
That one takes cues from the OG manga, but I think it's done with more class.
Yeah.
Of course, the circumstances are different. Do you care if I give away spoilers for the live action versions?
I do, because I do want to see them with my sister eventually, but so I would prefer if you kept those to yourself for now.
Yep.
I know that I said live action is hard for me to consume, so I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I would like to be able to enjoy it as its own thing, you know what I mean?
I think you'd be very interested, because it does some things pretty differently.
Yeah, I've heard that it's still good though, which is surprising because usually the further an adaptation deviates from the original, the worse it is.
Yeah, it does a little few things on its own, but the live action movies actually go toe to toe with the manga and the anime. Some people would actually say that the live action version is the best version of the story. It's not the popular opinion. Most people would say the original manga is the best version of the story. Me personally, I have no idea. It's a three-way tie for me.
Yeah,
if I'm trying to be objective, like my own personal preference is the anime version, but
yeah,
objectively, all three of them are dead even for me, and I think each one has a very specific part of them that is a huge strength that carries them. Where like the original manga, the successor arc is so well developed, and it feels like the cast is the best balanced concerning development in the original manga. In the anime, I believe that version is the most thematically pleasing and gets across the main themes that the writers are trying to get across in the most effective way. The live action version, on the other hand, what I love about that one is there is the ending has a higher dopamine amount. And I can't say why, but there's a very specific reason why.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And I wish I could say, but I can't explain why.
This is funny. Look, I just typed.
Talk about spoilers, but
I-
there's a specific reason why I think the live action version can boast on its own. But if we get not spoilerific, there are two movies. Well, if we count Elle Changed the World, there are three movies in the live action version, the live action movie version of the story. So you're getting lots of cinematic experience all in one go.
Yeah.
And Death Note 1 is good. Death Note 2, the last name, is even better. Not a lot of people like Elle Changed the World, but it does have a couple scenes that are worth watching.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll say. I have not seen the TV drama. I heard it has promise, but there are a couple things that are pretty jarring about it. So I'm kind of scared to watch that one.
I've heard that.
And
Go ahead. Sorry.
The stage play, I have no idea. Nobody talks about the stage play version. And the last version of the story, the Netflix version, you want to avoid like the plague.
Yeah.
Hate the Netflix version, and for completely understandable reasons.
Yeah, I've heard the Netflix version was really bad. So I am aware of the controversy, I shall say. Let's use a I am trying to find a valid picture. Anyway, yeah, I personally, just from what you've told me about the original manga, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna still prefer anime L to manga L, but I'm probably gonna like Nier more when I read it. I do love Nier as it is, though. He's adorable, but like, yeah. Yay, Shira out of context. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if there's a Death Note out of context.
Oh, I tried to find this and it wasn't there, so guess what I'm doing when I have the time. Oh crap, I disconnected my screen. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Okay.
I hope, Amber, you make that video, I hope you put the strawberry line in.
I am totally gonna put the strawberry line in.
The strawberry to keep it a secret. And they just, those are the things that are said. Have to insert the strawberry line.
This is why I love L, is because sometimes he does like the most random things, but they're just like, of course he does that, he's L.
Yeah, when he was trying to steal Misa's cell phone, and Misa's like, oh my gosh, someone touched my butt. That's a given. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and then he's just like, I will find whoever is responsible for this.
So it's like, there you go, you're so funny. And then he just blushes, and Light's like, oh, you're such an idiot.
He is, oh my goodness. And then I love the scene immediately after when he just takes out the phone and then L answers it. It's just like, that's comedy gold. He's just like, hello?
Like,
What do you mean, hello?
I mean, hello. Oh, is that you, Light? Yeah, like, you would not expect a show, called Death Note.
Yeah.
Death and serial killers versus rogue detectives and whatever to have funny moments, but like,
Gosh, I love L.
Slap really hard. The show is underrated funny.
Yeah.
Well, at least the first three arcs, like the intro arc, the college arc, and the Yotsuba are all underrated and hilarious. But the successor arc, the Greek, aka the Greek tragedy arc, is not. It's less entertaining and less funny, but it needed to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, it's like, yeah, Light is past the point of redemption. He's just gonna keep killing people through vigilante justice and believing himself to be God and righteous when he is not. He's nothing more than a crazy serial killer. This is gonna end terribly, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so, you might argue that the successor arc gets grimdark, maybe, because there's literally no humor in it that I can recall.
I don't think it gets grimdark. There's still like a hopeful ending because it means justice has prevailed. Yeah. I would say it's dark, but not grimdark.
I wouldn't say in general, but on occasion.
Yeah.
like the Takeda death, I
The Takeda death
um
is so sad.
yeah, that is that one and the Soichiro. Although, like, the Takeda one feels unnecessary. The Soichiro, I get why it's so sad and heavy.
Oh my
The
goodness,
Takeda
that
one
made me
just feels
so
like torture.
upset.
On the other hand, the Takeda one feels unnecessarily torturous.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not a
fair.
fan of that scene.
I'm
That
not a
one's
fan of
brutal.
I'm not a fan of it either, but it does remind you one last time, hey, Light's really effed up before the final confrontation with Nia. So, I understand why it had to be there, but I understand why somebody wouldn't like it as well. Oh man. Yeah, but
Yeah,
if I make a Death Note out of context video, I'm absolutely including the strawberry line because that's like the best example of out of context Death Note. He's just like he just casually reveals that he's the three greatest detectives in the world, and then he's just like, "I'll give you this strawberry if you keep it a secret." All right, all right.
he just slides it into his pocket.
I hope he didn't forget it was in there.
It's like you get home and it's just left out for a week or so, and you reach into your pocket and you get all this slimy.
Oh my goodness.
Your fingers and you're like, ew, nasty.
Yeah. I also love how he has three aliases that are the three greatest detectives in the world. So that whenever people try and find him, they just end up contacting him instead.
Yeah, there's also a scene in Elle Changed the World that I love in the live action version of the story where it reveals Elle's intelligence in different degree. Elle knows many languages. He's a polyglot, and
That doesn't
in the live
surprise me at
action
all.
version, he speaks. I'm going to say Japanese, Spanish, and English with perfect fluency,
That doesn't
and it's
surprise me. Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah,
Oftentimes
I love it.
oftentimes the type of people who do the type of autistic savants, and I use that term colloquially, who do like language and logic very well, are also like they can pick up languages in a matter of months. I'm actually the same way. I'm not like clinically defined as a savant, but like colloquially I would be considered that per my like test scores and stuff. And I learned Spanish within like 6 months. So that is definitely an autism thing, I think.
Yeah, and it's really cool. I'm sure he knows more languages than three. It wouldn't shock me if he also knew French because French is also widely spoken.
Yeah.
It's a full-time trade language. It wouldn't surprise me if he also knew Mandarin and Cantonese, also Hindi, because
Yeah.
there's a sheerly high amount of people who speak those languages because of the population in China and
Yeah.
India. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he knew like 7 languages,
Yeah. I only know
maybe even 8. You
I
know?
yeah, I only know Spanish and English and a little bit of French. I need to pick up my French studies again, but yeah, I need to get back on that.
My mom took French in high school, and French is strange to me. There are a lot of weird symbols in it and weird pronunciations that scare me off.
Oh yeah, that's true. That makes sense. It there's there's a pattern to all languages. French's is actually very easy, and as long as you can recognize patterns very well, you'll be able to learn it and get used to the weird phonics and stuff. Because the phonics have a rhyme and reason, like Spanish, it just happens to be extremely complicated. So,
Yeah.
with
I
English,
mean,
English is the closest I've come to seeing there's no rhyme or reason behind pronunciations, but that's because English is a weird conglomerate of like I don't know, 50 languages or something.
yeah, English is weird. I, as native as a native English speaker, English is kind of difficult because
It
our
sucks.
spelling is not phonetic. It makes no sense. And we have a bunch of grammar exceptions that also make no sense.
Yeah, well,
It's so annoying.
all of that depends on where the word or grammar concept originated from. Once you know like English's origins, it actually becomes a lot easier to learn. The problem is that it has like three or four primary origins, and then of course like immigrants have spoken it. I'm not, again, I'm this is going to sound bad out of context. I'm not saying immigrants learning English is a bad thing and that they shouldn't add to our vocabulary. That's what all languages do. But I am saying that when you have immigrants speaking the language, things can get like languages change, and it's a beautiful thing. It also makes English a hellishly difficult language. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got to be one of the harder languages out there. I'm not sure how it would compare to some of the other languages. I mean, one advantage concerning ease that English has is that it only has 26 letters.
yeah.
Um, that's
Meanwhile,
one advantage
Japanese
to
and
bring down the
Chinese,
difficulty. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mandarin, Cantonese, and Japanese have thousands of characters. Um, I know for a native English speaker, Japanese is often considered to be the hardest language to learn
It's
out of
actually
the popular
Hungarian.
languages. At
Linguists
least,
linguists say it's
at least
Hungarian.
Hungarian's up there. I'm just talking about native English speakers only.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is it like what languages are going to be easy or hard for you to learn depend on your native language, but like for a native English speaker, Dutch is the easiest and Hungarian is the hardest. Because like
That's
Japan
the first I've heard Hungarian being at the top. I've always heard Japanese or Mandarin Chinese being first, not Hungarian.
Yeah, I'm into linguistics. I've thought about studying it in college. A lot of linguists I've read have said that about Hungarian. It's just there's just something about it, which is weird because geographically, it's a lot closer to English in terms of the world than Hungarian than like Chinese and Japanese and Korean. But due to like globalization and stuff like that, Japanese has a lot of similar vocabulary and cognates with English. You wouldn't expect it, but it has a ton of them, um, which is why I think it's a little bit easier. I'm not saying it's easy. I can't learn Japanese because of my disabilities. I cannot do tonal languages, but I I mean I can pick up quite a few words in watching anime subbed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've heard Hungarian being in the top five, but I've never heard it being first place before. Like, I think the top three that I've always heard are like, okay, Japanese, Mandarin, Arabic. And then normally it's like Hungarian alongside a couple others that are thrown in.
I did Arabic for a time. I don't know it well enough to like read it or speak it or anything like that, but if you know Spanish, it's actually very easy to learn because the Moors conquered Spain during the Spanish Inquisitions and stuff, and the languages took in like the languages slowly like there are things that are still in there today like the like azúcar, which is the Spanish for sugar. Um, that's it's sukar in Arabic. Or no, that's not right. Sukar, that's it. There's like an emphasis on the K, but yeah, they're the same. They're basically the same word. And the some of the grammar like adjectives,
That's interesting.
like noun and then adjective, those all came from Arabic for Spanish and stuff like that. So I actually found Arabic easy, but I am not normal, so there's also that.
Okay. All right. So, one list I found concerning the top 10 hardest languages for the native English speaker. Hungarian is ranked high, but it's not ranked first. Instead, it
Ah,
was placed number 6.
yeah,
The
it's
the recent
debated, of
ranking I
course.
found was like Japanese is first, then Mandarin, then Arabic, then Thai, then Finnish, and then Hungarian is sixth.
Yeah, I've I think that we've been that you're looking at a different list than I was, because of course, like this is a scholarly debate. Like linguists are always debating amongst themselves and stuff like that. So it is true that like your list might not be the same as mine. I've never attempted Hungarian because not only do I have no reason to learn it, I also have heard it's way too hard. So
Yeah, Hungarian is scary. Like Finnish seems scary to me too. And then
Finnish
the other
is on the
members of
same
the top 10,
yeah, Finnish is
the other members of the
good.
top,
Finnish is the on the same branch as English, so I can't imagine it would be like that hard for me to learn, but again, not normal. So, and I'm not like knocking myself for that, but I remember saying something about how Arabic was easy for me, and like everybody in a room looked at me like I was some sort of genius, and I'm like, I don't like this. Why are you looking at me like I'm a genius?
yeah. Yeah, the other members of the top 10 I found were Hindi, Tagalog, Hebrew, and Turkish.
Yeah, Tagalog is similar to Spanish. So that one. Turkish, yeah, Turkish it would be probably pretty hard to learn. Although I'm surprised at how many words I can make out in Turkish. I don't really know why that is. It's just something. But yeah.
I wonder how high on the list Amharic is.
Yeah, Amharic, the official language of Ethiopia.
Yeah, because it's related to Hebrew and Arabic.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's a Semitic language, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, along with Tigrinya.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that one would be.
Yeah, I wonder how high that would be. If it's related to a Romance language, even like, way back in history, I think that it would be easy for me to learn, but everybody that I've told that I learned Spanish when I was 14 in 6 months, they're floored. And I was like, that was easy for me. And they were like, yeah, but like, that's insane that you were able to teach yourself that.
Yeah, one thing that scares me about Spanish, I mean, I love the language. I love speaking some words on occasion, but all of the verb conjugation can be hard to keep track of and feels like a bunch of work.
Oh,
I
yeah.
understand the pattern of it, at least concerning present tense, but when you also have to consider past tense, future tense, and preterite, that's where it's like, wow, that's a lot to keep track of.
You want to know a secret about me? I still don't understand the difference entirely between predicate and imperfect. Or not, no, sorry, preterite and imperfect. I said predicate. What am I saying? Preterite and imperfect. Which I just like. I never said I was fluent in Spanish, just that I know it. So, there's a difference.
Yeah, I don't like the verb conjugation in Spanish. That's frustrating to do.
Well, in Japanese, in Chinese at least, I don't know about Japanese and Korean, but at least in Chinese, they only have one verb conjugation. So.
Yeah, if I were to learn a language, I don't want to do any verb conjugation from what I've come to find. It's just a lot of unnecessary work.
Try
If I were to
Esperanto.
learn a language for fun, I would not want one with verb conjugation.
Try Esperanto. It's a
Esperanto is one of the easiest.
yeah, because it was made in a lab specifically to be easy. Because they want the reason for its creation is kind of weird to me because they're like the goal was to try and create like a universal human language, which I'm like, I'm not a fan of that, but I'm not against learning languages. It builds bridges and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely. For the list that I found, some of the easiest ones, I mean, Shakespearean slash King James English was listed as the easiest for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah, but that's English.
Yeah, so if we cut that one, then it easiest would be Esperanto, and
Yeah.
then right after that would be Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, Frisian, Afrikaans, Dutch, and Latin American Spanish.
That's funny because on the lists that I've looked at, many of them consider Dutch to be the easiest. And it does look like English with typos to me, and I can make out quite a bit of what it says.
Yeah, I put Dutch lower personally. Dutch doesn't seem that bad.
Yeah, I think that the hardest language I've ever attempted to learn was Arabic, but that's only because you think Spanish's verb conjugations are bad. Arabic has like 22 or something like that.
Yeah, it's the same in Amharic.
It's like one for like,
Yeah.
it's like you singular, you dual, you plural, all that stuff. It's like, oh man, that's exhausting.
Oh. Bye, friend. She left.
Yeah, she probably had to go make dinner.
Yeah, it's like I would hate learning Arabic. No thanks.
Arabic is fun.
I mean, Arabic scares me. I mean, writing from right to left is not the part that scares me. Or like the symbols would be hard. Symbolic languages are going to be harder to pick up, of course. But like all that conjugation,
What do you mean by symbolic? Because Arabic has the same. Arabic's writing system works the same as English, where symbols represent sounds, which represent words.
That I'm not personally familiar with. That's what I mean.
I see what you mean.
To put it in layman's super basic, immature terms.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They use wiggly lines that are scary to me because I'm not used to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had to learn how to write in that system before I could do anything in terms of grammar.
Yeah, Japanese, that one with all the characters you have to write and being context sensitive and being tonal, and how you have not only the thousands of characters in kanji, which is the hardest part, you also have katakana and hiragana as the two other alphabets, which those are easier to memorize. That's not the scary part, but just how Japanese has 3 alphabets instead of just 1 is very intriguing, but also very scary simultaneously.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn Japanese just for fun, and then I stopped quickly after I started. I'm like, no.
Well, that would be very easy to.
I'm never going to use this either.
If you get past like the school part where you're just learning the rules and stuff like that, what am I saying? The immersion part should be easy since you like manga and anime.
Well, yeah, but I don't consume it day in and day out.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Treat it like any other medium where it's like, I have a couple favorite shows, and I may watch 1 or 2 from that genre in a year, but overall, I'm not someone who's watching, like, I don't know, 20 anime shows in 1 year. Like, there are people who do that, anime reviewers do that, and I can't do it. I can't do it with live action either. I can't do it with video games. I don't have that drive to like consume that much of one medium anymore.
Yeah,
It's weird.
Yeah, what am I saying? Yeah, I just like consuming stories, so like as long as the story is good, like I'll do anything. So I'm not a weeb.
Feels low.
I don't know how to draw. This is strange. Okay.
I mean, I think with the nature of my job, I've just got caught up in other things. Like ever since when I was a teacher beforehand, like I had next to no free time in my first semester. My spring semester was not as bad as my fall semester. I had a little more free time in my spring semester, but fall was really hard on me, and it could have been worse concerning a lack of free time, but it wasn't. Um, in the present day, I actually have more free time now than what I did as a teacher. I
Ah.
have more free time in my current job, actually. But honestly, I I'm not consuming a lot of media like day in and day out. Instead, with writing as a hobby now, I have it's more like I'm doing more media production than media consumption.
That makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm the same way. When you have sometimes when you have just stories, your own stories coming out the ears, you just don't have time and stuff to watch other things, but or watch or read or do whatever. But I try and do that because I think that because they help me brainstorm. Like Death Note helped me fix a kink that I had been working out in Seraphite, like a story problem. For anybody who's watching, I'm not talking about that kind of kink. I'm talking about a story kink. But like, I'm trying to work out a story.
Clarifying.
Yeah. Well, I know that you don't need to clarify that, but people who watch this stream later are immature. So, but like I was able to clear up a writing kink by watching Death Note, and I was like, oh, that makes total sense. And my genre of writing is way different tonally than Death Note. It's way lighter.
Huh. You could say it's way light.
Oh my goodness, you had to do that, didn't you?
I'm Sans now.
Yes.
Ha 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 ha.
Do you think L is punny sometimes? No, probably not. He's dry.
No. No. Although I do see comparing characters from favorite franchises, I do see them as being very intelligent and logical, but if if we have to be filthy personality typists, I would slate in Sans as an ENTP while L's an INTP.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
Like,
basically, if L was more talkative with people, then he'd be punny. Okay.
That's the thing. When you compare the Skelebros, Sans looks like an introvert because he is so over the top. But when you look deeper and when you isolate Sans as a character, he gets along well with a lot of people, and you can tell he recharges by being around people. Everyone loves him in the Grill Beast scene. Everyone. And he seems to have good chemistry with others where you can tell that he likes recharging by being around people. Being alone to recharge is not his thing. That's more an Alphys thing, who is an INTP in the Foxverse.
Yeah. I think that, oh, who am I thinking of? Matsuda would be the one making dad jokes. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. But
he would be.
He'd be the dad joker of the group. Oh yeah, another thing that I may be.
Soichiro and Aizo are actual dads, but they're not funny enough to make dad jokes.
Oh yeah, for sure. But if whenever I make my Death Note out of context video, I'm definitely going to include that joke where Misa's just like, "Whoa, I didn't know you were on that side of the fence, Ryuzaki." And he's like, "I told you, I'm not doing this because I want to." Poor Misa gives him such a hard time.
Yep, that she do. It's like they start well. L never really disliked Misa, but Misa started out hating L, but over time she did warm up to him a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely think that he just enjoyed razzing her. He wasn't like actually annoyed with her like he was with Matsuda.
It was funny. I like him.
I like his sense of humor because it's so much like my own. I can be punny when it suits me, but oftentimes I'm just very dry and sarcastic.
That's L.
Yeah.
One of the best puns that he makes is where.
Oh yeah. I know the one. Yes.
He loves light, and she's like, I couldn't imagine a world without light. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be pretty dark.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
That was the moment when he became my favorite character, because I was just like, Al, is now really the time?
It was so perfectly timed. I was like, oh my gosh. The show is surprisingly funny.
Yeah,
You know,
no joke.
At least in the L section, it's surprisingly funny, and no one thinks about that too much.
I like that because it shows that Elle is still human, even though he's like he's like a genius who like stays up all night and eats sweets. Like he's still also just a regular in the sense of like he's just as human as the rest of them, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was probably so insulting to have to pretend to be a college frat boy to save Matsuda's bacon in that scene, though. Or maybe it wasn't. Maybe he likes acting like that. I don't know.
Do you think Matsuda actually sold the performance really well, too?
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Like, he started pretending to be drunk when he was obviously 100% sober.
Yeah.
But he somehow pulled it off anyway. And, like, the balancing act, you know, like, he could have slipped up and fell at any point before the crew arrived, and he would have died and the plan would have failed right then and there.
Yeah.
But it succeeded, and everything was timed surprisingly well.
Yeah. I live for that moment when Elle just looks at the ceiling and starts talking like he's slightly tipsy, and he's just like, so, you want to go out drinking tonight? Or something like that. Just like, that is the most hilarious thing, because it's like the complete polar opposite of his personality. That, and when he's just like, I'll give you a strawberry if you keep it a secret, okay?
That's not him.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think he respects his body and mind too much. Well,
Oh,
not his
no.
body. I think Elle would respect his mind too much
I was
to engage in
I was
something
gonna
like
say, because I was just like, you realize, like, Light could have written down in the death note, like, as soon, like if Misa knew his name, okay, here's how Light wins, like, 15 episodes earlier. He gets, no, probably not that early, never mind, disregard what I said, but maybe a lot earlier than he did. He just has Misa tell him Elle's name, and he writes down that the cause of death is diabetes. Boom. Nobody suspects a thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point.
Although
Yeah.
I think that he does that to keep himself awake. That, or he's hypoglycemic. Honestly, either of those are possible. Actually, he can't be hypoglycemic because there's no way you can have hypoglycemia with that kind of diet.
Yeah, it's just so that he can stay awake and stay alert. He gets a little sleep because of it. The dark circles are permanent.
Yeah.
But that's how you do.
I'm surprised at how likable they were able to make him while still making him very flawed, you know? Or maybe not very flawed, like he's still a protag, and I would say he's a good guy, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, Outlaw is the good guy, but he's the antagonist.
Yeah.
And Light's the protagonist, but he's the bad guy. And one of the things I like about the show is that we get to see the story from the villain's perspective.
Yes.
We normally see stuff going on from the hero's perspective. So if the Death Note writers wanted to make it stereotypical or more average, Elle would be portrayed as the protagonist, the guy that we're following, the guy or girl that we're following, the main character, because that's what a protagonist actually
Honestly,
is.
I would take a whole show with Elle as the lead.
Protagonist does not automatically mean good guy. It means the person that we're following the most. And the protagonist, in this case, is Light. But Light is the villain. Light is the bad guy. Elle and Nier and Mello
Mm-hmm.
are the good guys, quote unquote. They are the antagonists, though, because they are the main obstacles in the protagonist's way, even though they're, quote unquote, the good guys. And I say that because out of the three detectives, the three main detectives, Nier is the only true hero.
Yeah.
L is more of a, like, Nier is lawful good, L is lawful neutral.
Yeah, I would agree with
L
that.
is like, L becomes a good guy by episode 25, I would say, full on. He's more a hero in episode 25, but for most of his arc, he's closer to an anti-hero.
Yeah, I
And
can definitely see
Mello
that.
is full on anti-hero.
Oh yeah.
Actually, maybe an anti-villain. He's Mello is very chaotic neutral.
Mello is just I love Mello just because he's so dramatic about everything. He's just like he's just like the most he's like the most I guess rebellious side of L. Like the kind like this is the L that did a test on the police officers to see who was really going to stay on the case and made Aizawa super mad. So
Yeah,
it's
Mello
that L.
would do that, and he would do it again and again. Well, Nier is like, no, not necessary.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to get this to work. Please work. Okay, there we go. Now we don't have a.
Now, I might be.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Did I interrupt?
No, you didn't interrupt me. I was just gonna rant at my iPad, so your what you have to say is probably more important. Go ahead.
Okay. Not much more important though. I
Okay.
might be the only person who would want this, but it would be interesting if they did like a couple episode short series that's akin to Mad Men, where it shows how the 8 Yotsuba members in the meetings ended up rising to power within the company.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Like, I might be the only person who would want that, but I'd love a Mad Men style Death Note spin-off that's a mini series. It only lasts a couple episodes, but it depicts like Higuchi and Amikawa and Mito just gathering their power through various ways and how they became the third Kira chairman board within Yotsuba. I think that would be interesting to see just for world building purposes. It wouldn't do much of anything else, but I think it would be good to world build in the Death Note series because I would personally be interested in learning more about the Yotsuba members. I doubt anyone else would feel that way, but I personally would like to watch that kind of thing.
I would love
and I did
that.
like Mad Men when I watched it, so they could take a Mad Men kind of tone with that, like the Yotsuba Death Note, the Yotsuba Chronicles, or something like that.
I would love if I would love like a prequel about the Whammy kids. I don't know. I would like that.
That would be better. I think a prequel on the Whammy kids is more necessary than a Mad Men style Yotsuba side story.
Okay.
I think Whammy's house is far more necessary, honestly, because it's more central to the plot.
Yeah, plus I just like the idea. I'd really, really like the idea of Nier, Mello, and L being chums. Anyway, I've completed. Hang on just a second. Just to make sure, because sometimes. Yeah. I've completed my illustrations, so I'm actually going to end art stream. We can continue talking afterward. But that's going to be the end for today. I've done chapters 71 and 72. Thank you guys for joining me. I will be back on Thursday because tomorrow I am hanging out with one of my friends. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. Thank you guys all for joining, and God bless.